Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And we apologize about the audio issues yesterday. I watched it back and my microphone was not working properly. Hopefully we got it fixed today, but before we get into things, the new format of the show is going to be 20 minutes in Spanish from Nat. Then we're going to go into some cultural stories. Then we're going to head on over to Rumble, and you can follow us over there for some geopolitics so we can speak a little bit more freely and not worry about banning or strikes.
Correct.
Why don't you take it away in Spanish?
Sure. Bueno, pues buenas noches. Una vez más he estado preparando videos de los, no largos, pero de los que van más bien en el canal. Entonces, pues de noticias ando medio seca. Pero pues una de las primeras noticias es que Trump revierte la amenaza una vez más de nuevos aranceles a Canadá. Y como parece montaña rusa, pues ya siempre van para arriba y para abajo, y claramente es una táctica por parte de Trump y de Estados Unidos de pues intentar mover un poco más el escenario de lo que había hecho Joe Biden y no nada más darle por su lado a todos. Estoy esperando a ver si se conecta esta cosa porque todo me sale en ceros, pero supongo que habrá algo por ahí, entonces gracias por estar por acá. Y pues sí, Trump revierte la amenaza de nuevos aranceles a Canadá después de que Ontario rescindiera los cargos por electricidad. Se andaban peleando, en especial no es primer ministro, pero es miembro del Parlamento y ministro de Ontario, de la provincia de Ontario, Doug Ford, diciendo, es un señor gordo que se supone que era conservador, pero de conservador no tiene ni un pelo. Y se andaban peleando, él diciendo que no le iba a importar, que lo tuviera que hacer, lo que tuviera que hacer, iba a continuar diciéndole a Estados Unidos que no se iban a doblar, y al final pues sí se doblaron. Y pues entonces Trump también dijo, bueno, si ustedes van a participar, pues nosotros estamos de acuerdo en también quitarles los aranceles. Y algo en lo que más bien me quería enfocar en estos 15 minutos, y esta va a ser un artículo que está traducido al español de una revista para mujeres más conservadoras o más hacia la derecha, que se llama EV Magazine, y no me encanta siempre todo lo que tienen, pero me pareció muy interesante porque he visto mucho en línea y en redes sociales y en X y etcétera, que después de que Michelle Trachtenberg, esta actriz que empezó en Disney y tenía 39, me parece, sí, 39, y luego pues tuvo bastante fama en varias otras series, películas, etcétera. Yo la gran parte la conocí como Georgina Sparks en Gossip Girl. Ya he dicho, ayer también dije que veía Gossip Girl, chance eso explique algo de porque me portó como me portó a veces, pero lamentablemente perdió la vida y empezaron a rondar muchas teorías, como siempre pasa cuando pasan a mejor vida celebridades, sobre pues sus que veres, que en sus últimos días, meses, semanas se veía pues bastante mal, bastante flaca, tenía piel medio amarillenta, los ojos medio raros, y empezaron a salir teorías de que ahora la gente cree que Michelle Trachtenberg era parte de la élite oculta. Usuarios de Instagram especulan que estaba tratando de decirnos algo a través de sus publicaciones, y esto se ha vuelto una historia cada vez más y más grande. Pero en lo que me quiero enfocar es en a veces cuando nos colgamos demasiado de teorías medio locas por cosas o por historias o teorías donde sí hay evidencia verídica, pero cuando tratamos de hacer que algo encaje a fuerzas, a veces terminamos pues influyendo de mala forma en la historia en general. Y pues sí, como fue un pasar a mejor vida bastante repentino de Michelle Trachtenberg, aunque como ya mencioné en sus redes sociales, varias veces se veía pues no del todo bien, no se veía súper sana, pero tampoco ella había salido a decir nada, ni su familia. Se especulaba que había tenido un trasplante de hígado, me parece. Y pues que ahora también su familia, después de que pasó a mejor vida, decidió no hacer una autopsia porque va en contra de su religión, o sea, se judía. Entonces, pues siguen abundando todos los rumores de qué podrá haber pasado y habrá una élite oculta del ocultismo y de todo esto. Pues sí hay cosas bastante raras que pasan en Hollywood, hay creencias bastante fuera de lo común, fuera de lo normal y que se pueden cuestionar y cosas que han hecho y cosas donde sí ha habido bastante evidencia de cosas bastante asquerosas que hace la gente con mucho dinero y con mucho poder, que sí hay rituales de, ¿cómo se llama? No de adoctrinamiento, pero de iniciación o de, pues, a fuerzas de humillación era la palabra que estaba buscando. Hemos visto algunas hasta sin saber, puede ser, hay unas teorías ahora sí ya bien locas y donde sí incluyen, pues, cosas místicas que pasan, pero habrá algún tipo de clubes secretos, de cosas secretas que hacen las élites, probablemente. Pero en este caso no estoy 100% segura de que Michelle Trachtenberg y la historia que se está contando en línea realmente vaya por ahí o que sea realmente pues una forma respetuosa de recordar a alguien y más bien pues a veces sí hay que decirnos a nosotros mismos, bueno, pues lo que será, será. Y en especial porque ella tuvo influencia y fue un personaje pues importante en Hollywood, pero tampoco fue así, no era la persona más famosa y en especial durante sus últimos días y lamentablemente que lo más probable es que hubiera tenido una enfermedad de la cual no quería que el resto de la gente se enterara y por eso pues se terminaba viendo como se veía y puede que haya tenido intereses raros o interesantes, pero creo que hasta ahí llega y pues sí, a veces también nosotros autocuestionarnos y pensar críticamente sobre todo lo que leemos, todo lo que nos empezamos a creer y todo lo que empezamos a propagar también de este lado, porque a veces hay que también autochecarnos a nosotros mismos y pues justamente seguir intentando buscar la verdad y no nada más colgarnos de lo primero que vemos. Entonces todos sabemos que cuando una celebridad pasa mejor vida en circunstancias ambiguas el internet se vuelve acelerado, exactamente, pero han pintado una imagen de una estrella enredada en una red de fuerzas ocultas, pero por convincente que sea su argumento, es que como lo traduje a veces no hace sentido. ¿Es una evaluación justa o no? Y veamos, y pues sí, se veía no hiper saludable, pero se empezaron a sacar y salir, como siempre pasa, de sus redes sociales, pues varias imágenes que también se acercan al ocultismo, pero también a gente que pues nada más les gustan ese tipo de imágenes y que no tienen realmente ninguna conexión. Ella siempre, pues muy pálida, ella siempre es como que she's leaned into that, ¿cómo se dice? Se ha acercado a ese tipo de imagen que tiene como muy oscura. También estuvo en Buffy the Vampire Slayer, en Buffy la casa vampiros. Ajá, en español creo que así se dice. Entonces, pues también se le identificaba y se le, ¿cómo se dice? Se le reconocía por eso, pues, y también ella, pues, a veces le gustaba irse como hacia allá, y exacto, un enfoque clave de su argumento es su trabajo en Buffy the Vampire Slayer, y pues el creador, Joss Whedon, también él sí ha tenido como cosas raras que han pasado alrededor de él, ha tenido algunas acusaciones, y pues, también ya lo hablé, pero como ha pasado, por ejemplo, con Harvey Weinstein. Ahorita Candace Owens está empezando a hacer una serie diciendo, bueno, tal vez no juzgamos y no nos dimos cuenta realmente de toda la evidencia que había detrás de lo que pasó con Harvey Weinstein y puede que algunas de las acusaciones de las que todos nos indignamos pues hayan sido no del todo correctas y que la forma en la que se le juzgó ya en el jurado y por parte de la justicia gringa, pues no haya sido tampoco del todo verídica o que todo lo que se dijo haya sido 100% cierto. Y pues obviamente se empiezan a sacar todo tipo de teorías de que las imágenes de ojos y que las imágenes de mariposas y que no sé cómo lo puedo decir sin que YouTube se enoje, pero el MK espacio, ultra, que haya tenido algo que ver, porque también tienen que ver las mariposas monarcas con eso. Y a veces sí siento que nos inclinamos demasiado hacia querer creernos las historias que nos contamos a nosotros mismos. Y pues en este caso no hay tantas evidencias, o sea, es tratar de conectar hilos, como tratando de jalarlos hacia donde no van. Y por eso como que esta historia me parecía... Y también, o sea, fotos que había sacado con Bill Clinton y Diddy, pero pues todas las celebridades ahora sí del mundo pasan por los mismos lados y se toman fotos, no quiere decir que si realmente estén todos involucrados en lo mismo, en especial cuando también hay una versión donde se puede pensar, pues estaba enferma, falleció porque el trasplante que le hicieron, el probable trasplante que le hicieron no pegó, que a veces pasa. Y pues lo que estábamos viendo en redes era el decaer de su salud y la progresión, pues ya digamos, natural de lo que pasa cuando se rechaza un órgano en el cuerpo. Y pues sí, me quería enfocar en no siempre irnos con lo que queremos creer y empezar a armar más y más teorías sin la evidencia concreta, o por lo menos buscar las evidencias de lo opuesto y de ahí formar, pues ahora sí, ya la teoría completa. Pero ver que empezaran a, ahora sí que pintarla y ponerle y decir que esto es justamente lo que está pasando y que todo está coludido y que todo tiene que ver con todo, y pues con alguien que acaba también de perder la vida y que probablemente fue por un motivo muy triste, igual de lo que hablamos ayer sobre este actor que se llama Gene Hackman, que ya que salió la historia real de que su esposa había sido envenenada por veneno de ratas, no por veneno de ratas, porque, a ver, en Los Ángeles, esta es la historia de Gene Hackman, no lo tengo aquí, pero tiene que ver. Lo que pasó con Gene Hackman, este actor de 90 y tantos que falleció, fue que el señor pues tenía 90 y tantos y padecía Alzheimer. Y su esposa era la que lo cuidaba, que era bastante más joven que él, y sacaba a los perros y etcétera. Y un día sacó a los perros y cuando regresó a la casa, Gene Hackman pues no se enteró o estaba dormido. Y esta señora, su esposa, falleció repentinamente porque en Los Ángeles dejaron de usar veneno o raticida, pues veneno para ratas. Entonces las ratas cargan cierta enfermedad que cuando respiras la orina y los desechos de las ratas, pues también se te puede meter a los pulmones y causar una enfermedad bastante, pues que sí te lleva a mejor vida o peor vida, no sé. Espero que en el caso de la esposa haya sido a mejor vida y que estén en paz. Pero bueno, lo que pasó fue que sacó a pasar a los perros, regresó, tuvo un ataque repentino, perdió la vida, y Gene Hackman, como tiene 90 y no le habían dado no había nadie que le administrara las pastillas, no se dio cuenta por varias semanas, me parece, por lo menos una, de que su esposa había fallecido porque tiene Alzheimer el señor, y pues siguió con su vida hasta que por falta de pastillas y por falta de seguimiento médico con el que le ayudaba a la esposa, también falleció. Pero también con él salieron muchísimas teorías al principio de que también tenía algo que ver con las élites, que había sacado no sé qué en un libro hace no sé cuánto tiempo. Y pues no, la historia real, y es muy triste, fue porque Los Ángeles decidió que para que los leones de montaña, así se llaman, ¿no? Los cougars, no sé cómo se dice en español, pero los leones de montaña no se comieran a las ratas y por ende también ellos terminaran perdiendo la vida por el raticida que se estaba usando contra las ratas, que ellos también perdieran la vida, y pues por eso se dejó de usar el raticida. El número de ratas incrementó muchísimo, el número de enfermedades transmitidas por ratas incrementó muchísimo y ha llevado a que muchas personas se enfermen con esta enfermedad de las cuales las ratas son portadoras. Y pues falleció la esposa, sigo diciendo esa palabra, y pues la vida de la esposa terminó, y también eventualmente la de Gene Hackman, y terminó siendo una historia mucho más triste y también que pone mucho más en evidencia a las políticas locas que usan estas ciudades. En Vancouver también, donde vivimos Guy y yo, de 13 años, En Vancouver también decidieron deshacerse de los raticidas y ahora se ven ratas por todos lados porque es una ciudad al lado del agua, como Los Ángeles, y también han subido muchísimo las enfermedades, ratas de este tamaño, bastante asqueroso, pero a lo que iba con toda la historia de Michelle Trachtenberg y de Gene Hackman y conectarlas es que no siempre, aunque nos encantaría, hay que creernos las teorías más locas de que el MK, espacio, ultra, y que el ocultismo y que todas las celebridades están involucradas en cosas horribles. Puede que sí, pero hay que hacerlo con argumentos bien fundamentados y también no justo después de que le pasa algo terrible a alguien, no importa qué tan bien o qué tan mal nos caiga. Pues eso nada más ayuda a propagar más y más información que, pues, aunque no sea falsa, tampoco es correcta y también pues no pinta de buena luz a todos los que lo están propagando cuando sale realmente a la luz lo que pasó, como con Gene Hackman, que en realidad es una historia muy triste y a la que sí se pueden aprender muchas cosas. Pero esos fueron mis 15 minutos. Había prometido traer los videos de la marcha del 8M a la que fuimos, pero no he logrado componerlos de cierta forma porque tenían mucha música con copyright. Entonces me la he pasado tratando de quitar la música, pero dejar pues lo que está en grite y grite. Y sí se puede hacer con nuestro programa de edición, pero tarda en procesarse. Entonces quiero poder mostrar lo que estaban diciendo y gritando, pero sin la música que traen de fondo, porque pues ahí sí nos me bajarían el stream pues en vivo en un segundo, porque no se puede tener música con copyright o con derechos de autor que no son nuestros. Entonces denme hasta mañana, por favor, ya casi los termino de procesar y en cuanto lo haga vamos a verlos, vamos a hablar sobre el tipo de personas que fueron y cómo nos fue en la marcha, más de lo que ya hablé sobre eso ayer. Pero bueno, ahora sí ya me eché 17 minutos, entonces buenas noches, muchas gracias, muchísimas gracias por todo el apoyo que le han dado al video de Blancanieves, me divertí grabándolo, nos divertimos grabándolo y ahora sí esta semana vienen más videos, vamos a estar tratando de sacar más y como que no actualizarnos, pero catch up, ¿cómo se dice catch up? Como empezar a adelantar videos para poder sacar más seguido. Entonces, denos tantita chance, pero ahí vienen más, no se preocupen. Y también para poder sacar videos más largos. Pero déjenme ver si alguien dijo algo. No, nadie ha dicho nada, pero espero que tengan una excelente noche. Buenas noches y muchísimas gracias una vez más. Y nos vemos mañana en español. Y ahora sí nos vamos con inglés, primero historias culturales y luego de ahí nos pasamos a Rumble a decir, ahora sí que todo de geopolítica, pero lo que no se puede decir en YouTube. Buenas noches y muchas gracias.
And back to the English.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for everybody that's on Rumble right now. We'll be heading over there in a little bit, just go over politics and things like that, but we'll start with some cultural stories.
Yes.
Why don't we get into Disney? Were you talking about this in Spanish?
No, I was talking about Michelle Trachtenberg, which we are also going to talk in English. Maybe I should save that one for Rumble because I had to censor myself quite a bit in the Spanish version. But yes, so.
Okay. So the first story is Disney wins Momoa a copyright trial, but there's a $10 billion sequel suit that still remains for Momoa.
Moana.
Moana Part 2.
The movie Moana, yes. So Disney wins Moana copyright trial, but 10 billion sequels suit still riding the legal waves for now. If you didn't know, there's been a big battle with Moana over Buck Woodall's 5-year battle with Disney. They've had this dispute because he says that his work, Bucky the Surfer Boy, he was working on it while they started working on Moana, and apparently he was claiming that it had too many similarities.
Yeah, well, Disney actually has a habit of this. They've been embroiled in a lot of controversies over a lot of copyrights about people claiming they've stole copyrights from them, but they have the world's best attorneys and they have a lot of them. So it's really tough to take on Disney when you're trying to go after a copyright suit. And they're very skilled because they've won suit after suit in court. They also go after a lot of little independent people when they use Disney trademarks. For instance, there was a little band that came into a bar I used to bounce at, and they used a little...
You used to work. A lot of people don't know what bouncing means.
I used to work out as security, and they used a little Disney logo on their little promotional flyer. I believe they posted it on their social media. Somehow that got back to Disney, and Disney sent this small little band from Vancouver a cease and desist letter saying that they were infringing on their copyright. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, they also did that whole thing with the poor little boy that his life ended shortly because of cancer, and his parents... This was a while ago. His parents were, his favorite superhero, I believe, was Spider-Man. This was a while ago. And his parents were trying to get an image of Spider-Man for his gravestone because, as to commemorate his memory and his favorite character. And Disney was trying to sue them for using the image of Spider-Man without their consent because it's copyrighted. And this also became a huge thing because, I mean, it's a little boy that lost his life to cancer, and the parents were grieving, and they were trying to do something to remember the little boy, and they were just... Disney is disgusting nowadays.
Well, that just this kind of goes to show you the new age of social media. You have a lot of content creators that are on YouTube that are very successful. It's people like Tim Pool and PBD. They say use my clips whenever you want. They're not gonna get you for copyright. They actually just want their content to be out there and to reach more people because that will attract more people to their show and their channels. And I think if Disney was a little bit more lax on some of their copyright issues, people may tune into their news stations as well more.
Well, and what's funny with this is that whenever Disney gets or tries to get or gets some kind of complaint that they've been infringing on somebody else's copyright, like in this case with Moana, they go after them, and usually they win because they're Disney. But I mean, they've used a lot of copyrighted works, and I mean, The Lion King is basically kind of based off of this. I mean, yes, off of Hamlet, but also off of I believe it's a Japanese movie that came out a few years earlier about lions, and that is based on Hamlet and its two brothers and etc. So they've used a lot of, also with Frozen, I believe there was 2 or 3 things that were also taken from somewhere else that had a copyright, in Frozen 2, I believe. But they use a lot of copyrighted works, and then they try to excuse themselves and say, no, we're Disney, we would never do that. There's no similarities between our work and, for example, this guy's, even though this guy was working closely also with the studio at the time, he was also creating his own thing about the surfer boy.
Well, I guess this kind of reminded me, I don't know how I forgot, you just made a video about Disney, the new Snow White that's coming out.
Yes.
So thank you to everybody that watched it. The video
I said it in...
Oh, the video was actually pretty successful. We were really surprised. It had over 100 subscribers, so that was great. But yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, feel free to go over there. But then we'll go into the next story maybe?
Yes, but we do have... Hold on. Let me go to just the super source with this one, so we're just both on screen. We do have people not battling in the chat, but talking in the chat about, so Alex OS said it would help for you guys to put subtitles at least in English. It would help us a lot. Then Tu Papi Rafa says it's live. It's kind of impossible. And then someone said in the past live, they said that they were working on that, which we are. And then somebody else said maybe because lack of time. So YouTube does have an option to set subtitles in English, like closed captioning, which go live. So they would be looking at subtitles not in Spanish, but in English. The problem with that is it would make the stream incredibly choppy because it doesn't allow us to do it on the latency frequency. This is very a lot of terms, but it would make the stream start and stop randomly. Also on Rumble, they don't allow subtitles or closed captioning yet unless we put them up, but we don't know what we're going to say, so we can't
but maybe
pre-subtitle ourselves.
People are requesting English, so one of the big barriers we ran into was when we were trying to subtitle, we found some programs that could do English, but when they had to auto-translate to Spanish and then do that, it really started to break down, and
they started getting small, getting big, or you have to pay like broadcasting fees to use like actual services, which we don't have. We're a tiny channel.
But maybe we can look at if people do want just the English.
Just the English ones, yeah. Either we might try to use the YouTube version, the closed captioning, see how that works. Let us know if the stream starts and stops randomly for the next one, maybe tomorrow, because that's easy. It's just turning on a button and changing our settings. And if not, we will look more into just English captioning if that would help. Lo digo rápido en español, ya tratamos subtítulos, no estaba funcionando con la traducción de subtítulos a español, pero podemos intentarlo en inglés. Hay una opción con YouTube donde sí existe que subtítulos nada más en inglés, pero tendríamos que cambiar el tipo de frecuencia, entonces el en vivo podría ponerse se podría trabar muy seguido, entonces tal vez tratemos eso mañana, nos dicen si se traba o no. Y si no, si nada más les gustaría tener subtítulos en inglés, que es un poco más fácil, lo podemos también intentar con otros servicios que vimos durante nuestra investigación buscando subtítulos en español. But back to English.
Okay,
Sorry.
Before we leave the Disney story, though, maybe it wasn't on the list of stories I had here, but I was watching today about George Lucas, and before he sold Star Wars to Disney, he actually had a very dark series that he wrote 60 episodes to, and it was supposed to completely reboot Star Wars into something that was much more for adult-oriented. But once Disney bought it, they completely trashed that. The Mandalorian was somewhat based on some of those scripts. That's why The Mandalorian was a little bit more dark. But what he actually had made would have been absolutely fantastic compared to what Disney's kind of brought out for Star Wars. They've completely killed Star Wars. And I think we brought it up the other day, but now they're trying to sell Star Wars. It was really hush-hush. It's been on the market for about 7 months, but they can't find any buyers. Okay, let's go into the next story here. We got the WWE is entering a new era with Netflix. WWE is the World Wrestling Entertainment, so it's fake wrestling. I don't really watch it. I watched it when I was a kid, but financially, it's a big sports enterprise. So to see how the WWE and UFC, who they link up with for their broadcasting rights is usually pretty interesting. The WWE's recently entered in with Netflix. So the WWE used to have their own network online, and it was one of the first, and it was absolutely expansive and very well organized. When they've gone into YouTube and then Netflix. They're doing very successfully on Netflix, and it's a very good property for them. Netflix also did the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. So it was a huge $100 million fight, which basically broke their streaming network. Yes. It was very hard.
we were trying to watch it, yeah.
And it didn't work out too well.
And yeah, we keep seeing more streaming services trying to bring in live events. And with some success. We try to watch the Oscars. It took us a while, and apparently Hulu also broke while they were trying to do it, but HBO Max did work for us. But yeah, trying to bring kind of traditional TV and what people are interested in into streaming, because it can also open up a lot of monetary and financial doors for them.
Yeah, the main reason that they want things that are live, and this is primarily sports, you can't re-watch sports because you'll know the results of the game. So this brings in a huge live viewership audience, which if they put commercials on, they have to sit through the commercials. You can't fast forward through the commercials. So it allows them to charge advertisers a ton more for advertising rights and things like this. This is why live sports are becoming a huge property within live streaming. But ESPN they used to have most of the sporting rights, but...
And ESPN is owned by Disney.
Disney is actually... Disney's trying to integrate live betting into TVs through ESPN and the ESPN app. If they're trying to change legislation in the United States right now, and actually the almost the entire future of that company is relying on the fact that they think they're going to be able to change legislation and get betting put onto ESPN apps and live on TV, which would be huge. Also because they have access to a large children's market. Mm-hmm. Those children grow up, become teens, go right into sports, go right into live betting, then they have customers for life. So
what would happen with the UFC? don't they have some sort of plan to go into live streaming?
Every few years they change who's distributing them. So right now it's ESPN. ESPN actually messed up the last UFC fight that was on. Their streaming service broke and nobody was able to buy the pay-per-view, or it was very limited to the amount of people that were able to buy the pay-per-view. ESPN is also they invested $100 million into Stephen A. Smith, and I don't mind Stephen A. Smith. I like him, but to invest...
He's had some better... Yeah. Lately, he's had some a bit better commentary. He used to be very into the wokeness. Yeah. But
spending $100 million on any commentator, I think this is a dated model, and you're going to want to spend $100 million on sports properties, not on necessarily personalities.
Because you can also there's so many people that are so way more interesting and say things way more without any kind of censorship or any network breathing down their necks online and on YouTube that they might, the best idea would be to kind of go to them or make some sort of deal also with YouTube.
Or just find small YouTubers that are really good on camera and develop your own talent rather than paying $100 million. Because when people tune into sports, they like the commentary, but really they're tuning in for the sports property. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this was
we have a super chat from Tu Papi Rafa. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Funnily enough, he says, somebody said, Cesar Mendez said before, you speak English very well. Wow. Well, he's Canadian and then Tu Papi Rafa, I'm just going to say Rafa, said that speaks English better than Spanish. And I do speak English all day with him. I also lived in Canada for 13 years. Did university in Canada, worked at a school in Canada, and in media.
You speak English better than I do.
Yes.
And your microphone always works better than mine.
That's true. And in Mexico, I went to a school where most of my classes were in English as well. So I've been speaking since I was very, very little. And I also lived in the States for a bit. So yeah, thank you. It's also why it's easy sometimes to do the live in English and in Spanish. Sometimes my brain, because I speak English all day, tries to process what I'm supposed to say and the words that I'm supposed to say. But thank you for hanging in here, and thank you so much for the super chat. And yes, next story. Hold on.
Okay. The next story was actually our thumbnail, so maybe we should have led with that story.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But I was going to ask you if we were ever going to speak about Momoa, because...
the next story was James Gunn on Jason Momoa playing Lobo in the DCU universe in the new Supergirl film. So there's a few things about this. Jason Momoa, I think, is absolutely perfect for this part. He actually looks just like the character, and he's super enthusiastic about playing the character, much like Robert Downey Jr. is really enthusiastic about playing, is it Dr. Doom?
Yes.
But even though I might not like him in Dr. Doom, it's always good when you get an actor that's really enthusiastic about the character. And this has been a long time character that Jason Momoa has wanted to play. And because he looks so much like him, I'm really hoping it turns out, because I like Jason Momoa as a person, especially when I see him at the Harley Davidson factory on YouTube. But man, he makes a lot of bad choices on the movies he picks.
Yes, and he texted effing Lobo to James Gunn saying that he wanted the part. But it's also, and it reminds me also, you saying that it's something that he's been wanting to do for a long time, of the person we talked about yesterday, who is Ryan Reynolds, who basically had to fight tooth and nail for 10 plus years to get effing Deadpool made, because...
And the first time he played Deadpool, it looked horrible.
They messed it up for him. And also it reminds me of this interesting character, but nonetheless, Hugh Jackman, who is basically Wolverine incarnate. The only thing with this is that, why is it in the Supergirl movie? How is the Supergirl movie?
Okay, so there's a lot of things.
Because we actually also, at least I got to work a little bit on the Supergirl TV show in Vancouver, and that did not do well, and everybody hated it, and it was just a nightmare. So, because they're trying to make women, a thing.
Well, this is one of the big things. James Gunn keeps talking about the Supergirl movie and pumping it up. He currently has a movie, but he's been putting all his focus on the Supergirl movie, and I think it's the wrong property to really put all your focus on. Especially we're coming out of an era of woke Hollywood where people want to move away from that, but all the scripts that have been written, and I'm guessing the Supergirl script was written in woke Hollywood, and woke Hollywood was not good for feminist characters because what they did to all these feminist characters was make them super masculine, super strong, never gave them any weakness, so there was no really character arc, no reason to like these characters. When you see with male characters, typically they make them seem vulnerable, they get bullied,
and
they
they're
have
not
a struggle,
Mary Sue's.
they overcome the struggle, then they become the man or the superhero they're supposed to be.
Yes.
They just don't write that same character arc for female characters because they think
they can't give girls weaknesses. They all have to be Mary Sue's. They all have to be perfect because, oh, how dare we have a woman that has some sort of issue with life or that is maybe weak in certain spots. Maybe physically she's not the strongest. And with Supergirl, I mean, I get it that back when they came up with all these characters originally in the comic books, yes, they were the equivalents, but they also had struggles and issues in the comic books themselves. But that now they've all become Mary Sue's. They're all perfect. There's no issues. And it just makes everything very boring. That's why Supergirl, the TV series, failed.
Yeah, I think Jason Momoa may be the highlight of that movie, and maybe they're introducing him there for the spin-off movie. They need time to write the script, but they want to introduce him into the universe, and they probably sign him to a multi-film contract, I'm guessing. Okay, let's go into the next story, which is, it's a little bit political, but I don't know why I put it in this one. It was the Washington Post.
Yes. So a Washington Post columnist quits after her opinion piece criticizing owner Jeff Bezos is rejected.
Yeah, so if you're going to criticize an owner of a paper, I think your story is going to get rejected. They didn't fire her over it. She quit over it, though.
Yeah,
so
she made a hissy fit. But
you're taking a stand on something, I think, like, no, you can't go talk shit to your boss and then
talk bad to your boss, yeah. But yeah, a columnist who has worked at the Washington Post for 4 decades resigned on Monday after she said the newspaper's management decided not to run her commentary critical of Jeff Bezos' new editorial policy. The editorial policy we spoke about, saying that they were now going to be a lot more focused on just telling the truth, telling the stories, and moving away from the political bias that the Washington Post, whose tagline is "Democracy Dies in Darkness," which was kind of not working for the past few years. And it says, it breaks my heart to conclude that I must leave. Ruth Marcus, who is the writer, she's been working there since 1984, and her exit is the latest fallout from the billionaire owner's directive that the Post narrow the topics covered by its opinion section, only its opinion section, to personal liberties and the free market. The newspaper's opinion editor, David Shipley, also left, and we spoke about that as well. And it's just the rearrangement of a lot of these media types and a lot of these people that are used to their opinions and their way of thinking being forefront and never being, debated, discussed, or attacked in certain ways, now realizing that the rest of the world, or at least the rest of the United States, doesn't think the same way they do. Well, and it's like a culture shock for them because they never thought that their opinions might not be the ones of the general public.
And you have to realize the Washington Post this is in Washington, D.C., and it's the ideology in that area within the United States is completely captured. So any papers or journals or TV that's coming out of that region is extremely biased traditionally. Now, Jeff Bezos, I have to give it to him, at least he's trying to moderate it. He's not trying to make it conservative by any means, but he is trying to bring free speech and free market principles into the paper, which those are traditional liberal values. Mm-hmm. So he wants it to go back to more traditional liberalism, which in the end I actually think might help the Democrats. But let's go into the next story before I start getting too political.
Sure.
We'll save the politics for Rumble. Okay, the next one is the one you put on there.
Yeah, so the Michelle Trachtenberg. So I spoke about this in Spanish, so this might be boring for anybody who already watched it in Spanish.
I know little about the story because you added it in.
So Michelle Trachtenberg, an actress who was famous for Disney and also Buffy the Vampire Slayer, lost her life recently to...
So this was Buffy?
No, not Buffy. She was on Buffy.
Oh, she was on Buffy.
I don't remember her name because I was never a fan of Buffy, but she was also on Gossip Girl. That's kind of where I know her from.
Buffy was from my time.
Yes. Well, also from my time.
Okay.
Ish. But I was never interested in vampires. So yeah, she lost her life recently at 39, and there was a lot of speculation as to what had happened. She had been looking very frail and very ill in her Instagram posts lately. There was speculation also she had a liver transplant or a kidney transplant, one of those two. But the rumor mill kind of started happening, and a lot of connections to the occult, and maybe her being part of the occult elite, and somebody having to get rid of her because she knew too much, and them getting her sick on purpose. And my whole point was that what's most likely is that
Ozempic.
what's most likely is that she unfortunately lost her life to an illness having to do with her liver or her kidneys, and that the rumor mill and speculation, for example, about M space K space
Oh yeah,
ultra.
you said you wanted to leave this for the other one.
I did, but I mean, we will just touch it real quick here. But I guess that's it then.
Okay.
On YouTube.
Well, before we go, maybe we'll
Yes.
say a few words. We're switching the formats in the way in which we're making videos. We're trying to write 4 scripts.
Oh yeah, I said it in Spanish.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
We're trying to write 4 scripts all at once. And then we're going into filming the next day, which would be those 4 scripts.
In Spanish.
And then editing. So basically, we're hoping to get 4...
So we can get more content out.
Yeah, getting
faster.
4 edited videos out a week. So
Yes.
this is the first week. It's a little bit of a transition, but we should have another
It's a bit
video
rocky.
tomorrow or the next day.
Yes.
Tomorrow's a filming day, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see. And then if there's any breaking news, of course, I mean, we'll do a video.
We're still going to have the live.
Yes, the lives and a standalone video with whatever breaking news or more important news, but at least having a little bit of backup and reserves of videos will help us in the long run make the longer ones and make the ones where I really go into depth in topics like feminism and
Also 5-minute videos really let us gauge the water to see what people actually like. If a video gets a lot of views, then we can make a longer video about that specific thing.
Yes.
It's really disheartening if we spend a lot of time on a long video
and nobody
watches it.
Yeah.
So it's just I think
it's a learning curve, and again, it's just us two doing everything. So the kind of what can make it more efficient and better for everybody, I think is the way to go.
Yeah, I'll say thanks for everybody that has subscribed to the channel so far. It's really been a motivation for us to keep going and start to do lives and do shorts and do everything because it is a lot of work.
Yes.
But we're going to head over to Rumble now. So if you want to join us for the actual geopolitics.
The link is in the description.
Yeah, we prefer not to do it on YouTube because we don't want strikes or demonetization.
Yes.
So
and
we'll see you over there.
Get really into it. Yes. So good night. Buenas noches. Muchas gracias a los de YouTube. And we'll see you tomorrow. And we'll try to figure out those subtitles, at least in English, maybe for tomorrow.
Okay, they're going to follow us over to Rumble. So
I know, but I can't make any promises. So thank you and good night.
Okay, it's over. It's done on YouTube.